Okay, let's look at an adjustment method called the percentage of sales method. There are a couple. We can use an analysis or aging method, which is probably the better, more common method for estimating the net value of accounts receivable for a company. But we also do have the percentage of sales method that can be used. For this year, we have a company here, Penman Company, and they had the following account balances in its records. And this is at the beginning of the year. Have accounts receivable of $122,000. And they're using some outdated terminology here. This says allowance for uncollectible accounts. I just want to make mention that this is the correct terminology is actually credit losses, allowance for credit losses. However, if you study this topic some on your own, you're mostly going to find this terminology because this is a somewhat recent change as of the time that this video is being made. But if you see credit losses or uncollectible accounts, either one, it means the same thing. So just want to make sure we understand we're on the same page here. Right now, we would say that our net value of accounts receivable at the beginning of the year is simply $122,000 minus this allowance here, $7,900. Equals $114,100. Does that mean that we're going to collect $114,100 of this $122,000? No. This is merely an estimate, and this is actually not part of the question. But I just want you to understand this gives us all of the ingredients we need to come up with the beginning net accounts receivable amount. What is our asset accounts receivable worth in reality? This is the gross amount. The gross amount minus the allowance figure here would give us the net amount. Okay, so I'm going to move this calculator out of the way for just a moment. And it says that during the year, the company had credit sales of $1,173,000 and collections on credit sales overall were $1,150,000. They also have some additional information that over the course of the year, they wrote off 3 different accounts. And I want to say these numbers, the way this populated, it's a little bit difficult to read. So they wrote off one account for $3,600, another one for $2,400, and another one for $900. And so we're not using the direct write-off method, so I don't want to get too much into the journal entries that were behind these. But in the aggregate, we had $6,900 in total write-offs for the year. Okay, and then also important information, and I want to read this to you because I don't know if you will be able to read it on the screen as well. It says that on the last day of the year, they recorded the provision for uncollectible accounts at 0.8%, so less than 1% of credit sales for the year. And it says, let's see here, hint, the allowance account is increased by 0.8% of credit sales regardless of any prior write-off. So what they're saying there is the percentage of sales method is a little bit easier in some ways because we just take the sales, I'll show you how to do this. We just take the sales for the year and we multiply it by a certain percentage, and we add that to the amount of uncollectible accounts. So let's do this. We have to come up with the accounts receivable figure here, the allowance for uncollectible accounts here, and then the net value of the account receivable here. So we've got some nice space right here. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a column for accounts receivable. And actually, I'm going to erase that and move it over a little bit to the left. I'm writing the same thing. I'm just trying to give myself a little bit more room. And then over here, I want my allowance for, I'm going to go ahead and use their terminology, uncollectible accounts, okay, or credit losses, either way. All right. So we're going to start off with the beginning balance of accounts receivable at gross, which is $122,000. All right. Then a couple of ways we could do this. I'm going to go the long, drawn-out way. Just make sure that as we go, you make note of what each of these numbers actually is. The $122,000 is our beginning gross amount for accounts receivable. Then I'm going to actually add $1,173,000 in sales to that amount. But then I'm going to say, okay, of that $1,173,000, I've collected $1,150,000. So I'm going to enter that amount as well. Now let's see here. Let me back it up just a little bit. $1,150,000. But I'm going to do that as a negative. You know, if you wanted to, let's see here. Make sure that looks like what we're intending. If you wanted to, you could have just netted these out and added 23,000. That's the difference between those two figures. So feel free to do that if it's a little bit easier for you. And I'm also going to subtract out this $6,900 here that I wrote off, because that $6,900 will never be a part of this $122,000 or any receivable collections. So I'm going to enter that, and then I'm going to tally it all up. So let's get the calculator over here. 122,000 plus 1,173,000 in sales, credit sales, minus $1,150,000 in credit sales collected, minus the $6,900 in write-offs during the period. So we have a value of $138,100, and we can actually go ahead and just plot that figure right here, $138,100, and this is our gross accounts receivable amount over on the balance sheet for the next year. Okay, so less allowance for uncollectible accounts. So we started off with this $7,900 balance here, so let's just go ahead and put that down. Again, do note $7,900, that was our beginning balance. Okay. Now, of that, we used up $6,900 with these write-offs. So we need to recognize that. And then we also need to do this part right here where we record the provision. So I'm gonna write down, we had credit sales of $1,173,000, and we need to multiply that by 0. Let's see here, 8%, or 0.008 would probably be the better way to do that. And in fact, let's just let's change that around. 0.008. Okay. 1,173,000 times 0.008 gives us $9,384. Okay, so again, $1,173,000 in credit sales times this, you can barely see it down here somewhere. There it is right there. 0.8%, or as a decimal, 0.008, gives us 9384. So I've already got the 9384 on my calculator. And then you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to save a moment, and I'm just going to say, let's obviously a net of 1,000. So I'm going to add $1,000 there. 10,384. So that is a downward adjustment. 138,100 minus 10,384. 127,716. And that is our accounts receivable balance net at the end of 2019. All right, that's it for this video.